Hello, Sally. Right, who's starting?
Do you want to mention about people turning their videos off until
questions? Yeah. Right, so good evening, everybody. We're going to start the meeting. I think it's about 7:32. Do you think you could please make sure that your videos are off unless you want to ask a question, please, and you're muted. Thank you. John, can you read the thing, please? Yeah, thanks.
Certainly will, Chair. GDPR notice. Please note that the council is, and members of the public and individual councillors could be, making audio or video recordings of this meeting. The council's recordings will be uploaded to a cloud-based website of record and will be available indefinitely to the general public. By participating at the meeting, including by merely logging into it, you consent to this. If you do not consent to these terms, you should please not log in to the meeting. Thank you.
Thank you, John. Thank you. So item 1 is apologies for absence. Do we have any apologies?
Simon will not be attending this evening. No other apologies received.
Thank you very much. Declarations of interest and dispensations. Has anybody got a declaration of interest or dispensation, please? So then we move on to item 3, which is questions from the floor. Sally, I know you've got a question. Would you like to kick off?
Yes, it's just a quick one. I know that the water improvement issue for Rublies is not on the agenda this evening, and I wonder whether you've got any indication as to when it will be proceeding again.
Right, thank you. Well, as you know, we are still awaiting quotes for various parts of the Rublies allotment. Since we started with Rublies, Canada Gardens has also requested that they have we have a look at their water supply. So we're going to try and do them both together, which will mean that it's probably going to take longer to get all the quotes together.
Yes, of course.
And also, I think John told you this, that it's not in the budget for this year because we don't have enough money because of COVID.
Oh, I didn't realise that.
Oh, right. Okay, so it's not in the budget. Our reserves are down, and so we would not be able to manage such a huge sum of money. Okay. Certainly this year. There may be a few minor improvements that we can make, but they have to be worked out. We don't have a meeting next month, but we will. The council will be looking at together, or the committee will be looking at it again, obviously over that time. And then there's a meeting on June the 8th, right, by which time we hope to have more information.
Yes.
Thank you
very much.
Thank you, Sally. Is there anything else you want to say, Sally?
Thanks, Chair. Well, also the working party I don't think has met since the last meeting. That's not to say that it won't meet very soon, so we can still progress on this matter. It's just that it's not on this evening's agenda because there's nothing very much to report. So clearly we would like to think at the next meeting there certainly will be something to report either way, including progress on the proposed options, quotes, and budget discussions that we will be having as a council.
We've got an F&GP meeting next week, so we'll discuss. That's one of the things we shall be discussing, I guess. Thank you, Rodney.
I was going to say it's the first time I've been told that Canada Gardens want their water supply. That could hold up Rublies because we're having to start afresh from there. And the other thing is, I'm quite surprised that about the comment about our funds. Again, we haven't discussed this, You know, so it's only what other councillors have been talking about without bringing in the whole committee. There are ways that we can get over it, you know, but obviously I, for one, have been sidelined on that particular subject. And that's all I'm trying to say.
Thank you, Rodney. Paul,
Muted, Paul.
you're muted.
Yes, to some extent, I'd like to echo what Rodney said. I mean, it's news to me that we've decided that we haven't got the budget for it this year. It's news to me that we're dealing with the two allotments simultaneously. I mean, I'd have thought a fairly obvious thing to do would to be phase it. We do one and then the other. So I'm not sure how these decisions are being made. So perhaps the chair could just clarify on that, please. And also, the second point I'd like to ask about is what exactly is happening about these quotes, because we've been waiting since, I don't know, about June of last year for quotes to be obtained for the cost of providing a new water supply in from the road. And this just seems to be going on and on and on forever. Why isn't it happening, and who's doing it, please?
Well, as you know, Councillor Alexander has been doing all the quotes. He's still working on them. Because of COVID, people are not prepared to come, but surely now they will, because you can meet outside. The Canada, so we're hoping to get on with it as soon as we possibly can. And Canada Gardens, I've only recently heard about that as well, but it does mean that there's a lot to do. So maybe we have to discuss that in committee as to whether we do it or they do them all together, or whether we do one and then the other. We'll see. We have to talk about it in committee, basically.
So why isn't it on the agenda this month? I mean, that's another month going past.
Because we haven't worked.
2 months, Paul. We haven't got a meeting next month.
We haven't, Rodney, please. We haven't had a meeting of the committee. We have only had the working party. We've only had a working party meeting for the allotment agreement. So we've certainly been working on that, and waiting for the quotes meanwhile to come in. Sarah.
Oh, I would echo what Councillor Campbell and Goldsmith have just said. I don't understand why we can't do it in 2 phases. The thing is, we have to remember some years ago we actually sold off allotments because we couldn't get anyone who wanted to be a tenant. And yet here we are with all our allotments rented out. We've got a waiting list of, I think Sally will confirm, I think it's 14 we've got now.
Yes.
If we don't provide a proper water supply, people are going to give up their allotments, because if you don't have water for your crops, they will fail. It just seems ridiculous. I cannot understand how something so simple, and we have had people meeting up there, so I think it's a bit of a excuse to say people haven't come out for COVID, because they have been out. They've been out to the allotments up at Rubery's and they've had a look round and they've dug trenches and all the rest of it. So I think we're letting down our tenants appallingly, frankly. So they're going to have to face another spring and another summer rather, with an extremely inadequate water supply. And we have to remember there are people who, they may be retired and it's just too much physical work for them. I'm appalled, frankly. And I feel quite ashamed that SPC have been mucking these tenants around for so long, and now you're saying that we haven't got a budget, which, as Councillor Campbell and Councillor Goldsmith said, is news to me. We have reserves for things like that.
Thank you for that, Sarah. But Sarah, we're already in the 21-22 year of the budget, and it isn't in our budget. So it's something we've got a meeting next week of F&GP. So I dare say that this is something that will be coming up then, how we are actually going to allocate the money that we've got. And we don't know yet exactly how much we've actually managed to, what is it, John, sorry, called, what
year end.
The year end, yes, thank you very much. Yes, the year end numbers. So hopefully we'll be discussing that soon. So I'm afraid that's as far as we're going. Tim.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, I just wonder whether John could clarify it in terms of the figures. And just to clarify something else, there's been no meetings or decisions made on any of this. So I think this allegation that this has been done is completely without foundation. We have a working party. The minutes are the minutes. I'm sorry, I'm talking. The minutes have gone out. Everybody was aware of the budget for this 21-22 year. They all participated in it. So I'm surprised that people are bringing this up when they know extremely well that there isn't a budget for this. It will have to come out of reserves. And that decision has yet to be made. So I wonder whether John can just clarify the reserves position and the budgeting, etc.
Yes, thank you, Tim, through you, Chair. To clarify, no decision has been made other than the fact that we agreed this year's budget. So we have had a working party talking about projects. This was one of them, and the prioritisation of projects. And we will come back to that at F&GP next week, as Deborah has mentioned. So there's no hidden agenda. Nothing has been discussed and agreed by certain individuals. The reason, I'll come back to the reason it's not on the agenda this evening is because there's been no tangible progress made from the working party because it hasn't met. We have had working parties that have met to discuss the allotment agreement to get that through, because right now that would be the priority issue, certainly, for our allotment plot holders. So, and we're going to report about that later on. In terms of year end, I haven't completed March reconciliation yet, so I can't give you exact figures, but we are close to the mark for the end of this year. I can tell you that just looking basically. So in terms of budget for this particular project, as Rodney mentioned, there are ways and means. As Tim mentioned, it is possible to look at our reserve, and one way or another, if we think it's appropriate to do so, we can fund whatever appropriate recommended project is put before us and we agree. So, as I say, we can return to this on a future agenda when we have a recommendation from the working party.
Thank you, John. Thank you. Right, so I think the quarter of an hour up is just about up. So could we move on, please, now to, sorry?
Trevor's.
Oh, Trevor. You're muted, Trevor, I think, are you? No.
Yeah, thanks, Deborah. Sorry if this means going over 15 minutes, but just maybe of some help with the finance. And I didn't know this is not my statement or question, it's coming. Finance and General Purposes meeting, 12th of January 2021, earmarked projects are either £19,607 or £11,550, and higher priority is allotment water installation. So if I could carry on, I'd like to make a statement and ask a question, please. Okay, I should like to make a statement and ask a question with respect to item 8, Steyning Centre. The premises report, item 8.1, and the lighting works report, item 8.2, are very useful and are similar to the reports given by the Deputy Clerk to the former SBC Premises Committee before it was disbanded on the 20th of August 2020. I believe that everyone would agree that the Steyning Centre is a very important asset to the town, and that properly maintaining it and updating its facilities is fundamentally important. In that regard, the Greening Group had developed a very detailed energy saving program for the Steyning Centre, and the phase 1 lighting upgrade to LED was completed by the end of 2020. Rampion funds had been used and £2,320 remained available for phase 2 of the LED lighting project. I was therefore very disturbed to read that at the Finance and General Purposes meeting on the 12th of January 2021, that under projects, the Steyning Centre upgrades to LED lighting, solar panels and street light LED lighting had been identified as to be left for later years. My question is, why have these fundamental contributions to the 2019 SPC Climate Change Initiative been downgraded? And will the SPC leadership reconsider this decision without delay? Thank you.
John, when you're good at answering that one.
Yes, thank you, Trevor. I will say that, as I've mentioned in the supporting paper, we still have funds available. We have completed phase 1 of the LED light installation, so we'll be looking at phase 2. So we are actually continuing with our development of LED lighting within the Steyning Centre, and as you've seen, other LED lighting elsewhere that wasn't actually within the remit of that particular project. So it's certainly something that we are continuing with, but projects is, and the overarching idea as to what we're prioritising is really an area for F&GP. So that will be coming up, as I say, next week.
Thank you. So can we move on, please, to item 4? It's a previous meeting. If we could just see, I haven't seen anything in the minutes at the moment that I can see. Rodney.
Sorry, Deborah, but it's very difficult to hear you, to be quite truthful. You know, I'm really having to struggle. Could be that my ears are going, but it could be that you're a little bit too far away from the computer. Only a point, but
Okay.
yeah, thank you.
That's a bit better, Rodney?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, okay, thank you.
Yeah, okay, good. Thank you very much.
Yes.
So I would like to propose that we accept the minutes of the previous meeting and agree that they are a true and fair record of the meeting. Paul.
Muted, Paul.
Yeah, I'd like to propose an amendment, please, Chair. It's actually on page 4. Colleagues could turn to that. About a third of the way down the page. Item 93.2, where it says, following continuous disruption from Councillor Goldsmith. Now, of course, the disruption wasn't continuous. We were about 3/4 of the way through the meeting when this happened. So the word continuous is just plain wrong. And so what I'd like to do is propose the removal of the words continuous disruption from Councillor Goldsmith and the substitution of the following words, so that it will read, following protests from Councillor Goldsmith when the chair made an incorrect and provocative criticism of him, and then carry on as before, because that's actually what happened, and the minutes need to record that.
Thank you, Paul. I would like to say that of all the councillors at most of the all of the meetings, Rodney is the only one who doesn't mute himself after he's questioned, had his after he's spoken. And so he has the opportunity, and he takes it, to actually butt in when people are talking. And it is really very difficult. And when you live out in the sticks as we do, or as the Sullivans have problems hearing things and cut out, It is really difficult. And so to be in full flow talking about something and then having Rodney not muted and butting in is really very difficult. Thank you, Tim.
Tim.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, can I suggest perhaps that we refer the minutes to the next meeting, or we defer the minutes rather to the next meeting, because I don't. Councillor Campbell says that this is what happened, the statement that he's just made, but of course I haven't had the opportunity to listen to the recording. So I don't think any of us can make a judgment on this until we've had an opportunity to listen to it. I know we were there, but these things get muddled up during the course of the meeting. Thank you, Chair.
Right, thank you. Rodney, I think you were next.
Yeah, it was just to thank Councillor Campbell for bringing that up. And I would just like to remind everybody that you did accuse me of something which was completely wrong. So I think everyone should bear that in mind. And it was no wonder that I lost my rag when I was accused of something that didn't happen. Thank you.
Right, thank you, Rodney. I too have not, because I have no internet and I have no way of watching the thing. I have no recollection of exactly what I said without listening to it. Sarah.
I did actually listen to the audio recording, and as a lot of you know, quite often I do shorthand during the meeting, so I can go back through my notes and find something on the audio recording. It's just a way that it aids me. And in actual fact, Councillor Goldsmith didn't continuously cause destruction, and I do feel that we are 15 equal councillors and we should all be treated the same. And I can think of many other occasions when other councillors have actually disrupted a meeting and made it very difficult when you're trying to speak, and I'm including before we were doing Zoom. So I just feel this is unfairly treating Councillor Goldsmith when there are a lot of other examples when other councillors have continuously disrupted, or it's very off-putting if you've got people, for example, pulling faces when you're trying to speak, and you can see other councillors on your screen that are rolling their eyes and all the rest of it. So I do feel this is unfairly targeting Councillor Goldsmith again.
Right,
and as I said, I have actually listened to the audio recording.
Thank you, Sarah. Thank you. Well, I would like to second Tim's idea of referring these to the next meeting, and so that we can all have a chance to listen or look at the video recording of the meeting, so that we all have the same view of the alleged situation. So could I have those in favour?
Can I speak, please? I've been waving my hand.
Sorry, Gary. Sorry, Gary. Yeah.
I would like to second Paul's amendment, please.
Right, fine, thank you. So I have already proposed that we... No,
I had my hand up before you started saying that.
I didn't say it. Okay, fine. Well, I think, can we not take one... Do I have to take the amendment first? First, right, okay, so that's fine. Well, so we'll take Paul's amendment, and if you're going to second it, then could I have those in favour, please? And those against? And then abstention. Oh, no, sorry, you're not, no abstentions. Okay, that's fine, that's carried then. So we will change that to what Paul has suggested. Thank you very much. So now I will propose,
Yeah, that was an amendment.
that was an amendment. So now I would like to propose that we defer actually accepting them until the next meeting.
I'll do that.
Do I have a second for that?
On a point of,
So that we all have the opportunity to listen or watch the meeting.
on a point of order, could I ask John to explain what's going on? Because if we've just approved that amendment, I don't see where we're going now.
Yes, through you, Chair. Yes, so that, as I understood it, was to vote on Paul's suggested amendment to the minutes. So that was agreed, that particular amendment. So we were then to vote on whether it's either a true and fair record or whether we are to defer the agreement until next month.
Next meeting.
Because it was just to agree an amendment. It wasn't to agree an amendment and to agree that they are then a true and fair record, I'm saying.
There does seem to be huge inconsistency with the way we deal with minutes. So, okay, fair enough. Let's put that to the vote.
Right. So I propose that. Tim, was anybody going to second that?
Yeah, I'll second the
Yeah, okay.
deferment. Yeah.
So those in favour of the deferment until the next meeting, so that we can all have a chance to look at the video or listen to the audio, please. Thank you.
3, 4. 3, 4.
Any against?
4 against.
And 4 against. Okay, so that's not carried. So without being able to look at it, I'm not going to actually propose that we accept the minutes.
That's what we've just done, isn't it?
In that case, I propose it, Chair. I propose that these are a true and fair record. Oh, what is the wording? So I'm proposing that we agree these minutes as amended are a true and fair record of the meeting held on the 2nd of March 2021, and I invite a seconder, please, Chair.
Second it.
So those in favour?
4, 4.
Those against?
And 3 against.
No
Thank you.
abstentions. Thank you. Okay, so those are the new minutes. Thank you.
Can I just interrupt for a minute, Deborah, because I see that Shana's been hanging around a bit. Yeah, and I think she's got an agenda item, you know, the ice cream at 6.1, whether we can put that forward as she's been quite patient waiting.
Well, this was only going to take about 2 minutes.
Well, we're hoping that the matters arising, and thank you for that, Rodney. We're hoping the matters arising and actions are not going to be take very long, because these items should be taken as read and do not need discussion. Many of them are on the agenda later on anyway. So I think it would just be good if John took us through those, because then Shana is next.
Okay, thank you, Chair. So there are only 2 out of the 12 items noted within the matters arising that are not noted, as we said, either actioned or to be discussed further as part of this meeting. So I'll briefly update on them now, if I may. That would be 5.4, that's Clerk and Chairman to action the printing of the Steyning 20-mile-an-hour consultation questionnaire. We certainly did that. Printing undertaken and also distribution undertaken. And I can give you a very quick update on the numbers. You can just bear with me. So one of the members of the working party emailed this to us. Survey going very well, I would say extraordinarily well. Currently, we have a total of 873 responses, which is immense, amazing. In favour of the proposal, 574, against 245, unsure 54, and of which the 873, of which 755 were online responses and 118 via paper. Obviously, we're still collecting those, going towards the end of this month, so there's still plenty of time to gain responses. And until such time as we've had all the responses, clearly, Working Party aren't in a position to fully report. So that's why that will be on next month's agenda. The second item was 5.11, Clark to report back on possible mass vaccination hub. We have been informed from the emergencies team advisor of West Sussex County Council that they haven't received any further requests for vaccination sites from the NHS. So they think it would be safe to assume at this point that Steyning would no longer be required for this purpose, which is both unfortunate in a way for us because we really wanted to be part of this, but also it's good news in that NHS is clearly on top of the situation. And that was it. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much. Right. So those are the that's the matters arising and actions. So now we move to item 6, which is community matters, to discuss and agree whether proposed commercial operators' requests, as per supporting papers, are given support from SBC. So, Sharma, would you like to unmute?
Sarah had her hand.
Oh, Sarah.
So, sorry, Chair, it's just where it says matters arising and actions, it says these items should be taken as read and do not need discussion. I'm just a little bit concerned that that's on there because there may be occasions when councillors see something under matters arising and actions which isn't an agenda item later on, and there may be something which they want to query or they want to comment on. So I'm just a little alarmed that it says and do not need discussion. Is that going to be every single meeting? Because there could be an occasion when a councillor thinks, oh, I just need to mention something.
Yes, thank you, Sarah. That's been on our agendas as that wording for a long time. I don't remember how long, but certainly.
Well, on some agendas.
Some agendas, okay, fine.
Through the Chair?
Yeah.
Just through the Chair, yeah, just to say that because it's on the agenda, it means that you as councillors still have a right to discuss it. It's just that there is no need necessarily for us to discuss these items if they've been actioned or they're already on the agenda or there's an update of which, you know, there is a discussion point anyway. So it was just an attempt to speed things along.
Thank you, Sarah. Sharma, would you like to unmute yourself? Unmute yourself. Unmute yourself.
There you go.
Yeah, good girl.
Do
Yeah.
bear with me, I'm terrible with technology.
Don't worry, so am I. Yeah, I hate it actually.
Same here.
Yeah. So Sharma, hello. So thank you for coming tonight. And would you like to speak about your project, please?
Yes, so most people know me as a dog walker around here, and I only serve Steyning with my dog walking. I've just purchased a very nice brand new spanking bike to offer local ice cream to the residents of Steyning here. So, I mean, it offers everything within the tricycle is environmentally friendly. It runs with electric gears if I need it. Everything is recyclable and the produce is local. And I just think that this bike has already gained quite a lot of popularity really with the residents. They love it and they love the ice cream that's being served. So I do have a peddler's license and I am fully insured. And I'm also registered with the Environmental Health. However, peddling this bike around Steyning with the roads and the traffic is going to be quite difficult. And I think it would be really fitting if you would be able to give me permission to have a spot on your cricket field. I can, obviously I would take away my own rubbish to recycle the rubbish. And, you know, I think it's quite quintessential British country life. It really has that feel to it. If I can't really get it on the cricket field, I'm going to have to move it to the seafront because it's flat. But I'd like to just offer it in Steyning, really. I think it fits perfectly. I've got so much support from the businesses around here. The Steyning tea rooms, they're allowing me to stand outside with my trike. I've got support from the antiques place, from the Checkers, from Mamma Mia's. So I don't know, I think I need your permission. I think it's going to work beautifully.
Right. Thank you very much indeed. That's really good. How often and when would you like propose to how you would how many times you come a week?
I'd love to come as many times as I can, but obviously, you know, I have to work within your guidelines. So whatever days you can give me would be great. Friday afternoon is a great time because I know the kids go down there quite often. Really, at any point, any time, all my services just seem to be in Steyning, and I'd like to keep it here.
Right. So are you thinking you might want to do it sort of every day or a few days a week?
I would probably say...
Do you take it anywhere else?
Well, I think if I was to offer it in Steyning, probably not. I might go down to the seafront every now and then. But I'd like to keep it more here. I mean, I'm Friday afternoons, weekends. I'd like to get as many days as I can, to be really honest. But I understand you might not be able to offer all of those days, which is understandable.
Right. Okay. Thank you very much, Shana. Would anybody else like to talk about it? Sarah?
I think it's a wonderful idea. I mean, it's a bicycle or a tricycle. It's not going to be churning up the grass. It's not going to be noisy. The ice cream's not going to be something that's smelly. As Shana said, she's going to take the rubbish away with her, which was a problem that we did have with the pizza van in the car park, that the people would buy the pizza and then they throw away their packaging in the bins and it sort of blocks up the bins. We're not going to be getting that sort of problem with an ice cream. The only thing I would say was if we did go ahead and grant a license to Shana, I would quite like it to be only Shana has a license to do anything in the MPF, because I wouldn't want to see someone else being there, for example, selling cakes or anything. With the ice cream, I think I'm right in saying that the cricket club don't sell ice cream, so you're not in conflict with them at all. So, you know, I think it would be a really good idea. I'd also like to see the license granted to Shana, so that it stayed with her and it didn't then get, say, someone outside the village that bought it. I would like it to stay with a local person, really.
Right. Thank you very much. Paul?
You're muted.
Yeah, I also think it's an absolutely brilliant idea. I think it would be a fantastic asset for the community. And so I'm very in favour of it. And I think if we're going to do it, I see no reason why we should limit the number of days. You know, if it's a good thing, then it's a good thing whatever day of the week it is. So I'd love to see it. I would like to see it for a limited period, you know, for one season, and then we can review it and see if there are problems that have come up that we haven't anticipated, and, you know, then try and work with Shana to find any, you know, solutions to anything that happens. But in the principle, I'm very much in favour of, I must say.
Good. Thank you. Tim?
Thank you, Chair. Yes, I agree with what's been said. I think it'd be a great idea. I also agree with Paul that we should do this for a limited time, as he says, maybe the season or for 3 months or whatever, and then we can see if any issues have been raised by anybody. Just would like to have seen, before we make this decision, the proof of the insurance that Sharma carries, to check whether she's registered with the local authority. I presume she has. She said she was with the Environment Agency or something. I think she needs something called a food management system in place. I'm sure she knows all about that. And risk assessments have to be done on a regular basis. There's all things like health and safety and hygiene and so on. So I just want to be sure that before we grant this license that she has covered all of those bases. So perhaps she'd like to let us know whether that's been done, and perhaps let us have a copy of her insurance to make sure that it's adequate for the job. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Sharma.
I have insurance because I'm already at the farmers market in Steyning. So my first day was actually on Saturday. It went down a right treat. The Environmental Agency, so I've registered what I've got as a food premise, but I don't make the ice creams here. They're a local supplier. So all they need to do is they need to send somebody round, which they said they would do. But obviously with COVID, they've got a backlog. And I've just got to wait about, really. But I think because I'm not making my own ice creams, the risk is very small, very small. And the other thing I'd like to add in terms of rubbish is that I live literally on the high street next door to the co-op. So getting rubbish back here is going to be so easy.
Good, thank you very much. Tim.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Sharma. Yeah, I think I may be wrong, but I think you do have to register this as a mobile with the local authority,
Yep.
but perhaps you can check that out.
I've already done that.
Yeah, okay. Well, it would be good to know that you have and to have proof of that, and also the proof of your insurance. I think you need to supply
Right, yeah.
or to supply the client with the insurance to make sure that you're adequately covered. I don't know what the total amount of insurance, the public liability insurance you've got.
No, I sent that information over.
Oh, you have? Okay.
Yeah.
All right, fine, cool. So if you've done that, then that's fine.
Good, okay. Sharma, if you could supply that other information, that would be brilliant. You could bring it to the office.
Okay.
Yes, okay.
Yep.
Okay. So I would like to propose that we give, sorry, Paul, yeah.
Yeah, what I've been trying to say is, can we not just delegate John to undertake all the necessary administrative arrangements with Shana in order to implement this as quickly as can possibly be done? If we can have those words added to whatever it is you're proposing, Chair, then we can get it dealt with. And I don't see any reason for committee members to get involved in insurance and all the rest of it. That's John's job.
That's fine. I did actually say John could bring that to the office. I didn't say that she would necessarily have to tell all the committee.
Yeah, but I'm just getting it.
I was trying to propose that we grant a license to Shana for the season, and that as soon as she's brought the stuff to John and been sorted out, she could start.
Ah, awesome.
So can I have those hands up in favour?
Sorry, Chair, if I may, can we set a date for the end of the season, please?
Shana, would you say up to the October half term? Or would you
I would say October. I would say about October because it starts to get a bit cold.
What about the end of September, the 30th of September?
It's still so warm. The ice cream season's still booming.
All right, half term, beginning of half term?
Yeah, is that October?
That's usually October into November, isn't it?
That's perfect. Yeah.
Is it? All right.
That's perfect. Thank you.
Yeah. Yeah, fine. Gary.
I'd just like to second your proposal, please.
Right, okay.
Yeah, I was going to say, could we say the end of summertime? When the clock changes. I mean, that is a definite time. At that point, we've gone from summer to winter, and it's a nice cut-off point rather than half term here, all that. When the clocks change.
Would you be happy with that, Shana?
Yeah, I think that's a good idea.
Right, that's a good idea. Yeah. Thank you, Rodney. Yeah.
Chair, sorry, just one last question that I forgot. Have we done a consultation with the 3 clubs on the site just to ensure that they're happy, that there's no conflict of interest there?
I think the cricket club are happy. I've already spoken to them about interests.
Well, I know you have, Sharma, but the council hasn't. So that's what I was asking the chair as to whether we had.
No, we haven't. No, we haven't.
Okay. Well, I think we should really have carried that out, but perhaps that can be delegated to John as well.
Yes, yeah, that would be good. Thank you very much. So, Gary, you're good. Oh, Paul.
Chair, I just want to make another suggestion, actually, because I'm sorry to be a bit legalistic about this, but I think that it's great that we're going to grant a license until the end of the season, but it is possible that there's going to be some terrible problem that we haven't anticipated, and we need to reserve the right to terminate the license at will, or subject to a period of notice or whatever, but I would say determinable at will. That just means that if there's some terrible problem, we're not stuck with that problem continuing for the rest of the year. And I'm sure it won't happen, but we just need to think that this is a legal agreement we're entering into, and you know so that needs to go in my suggestion.
Thank you, thank you. Sharma, would you be happy with that? And if you would have that on your side as well, I believe. I think that's the right way to do it.
Oh yeah, completely.
If you suddenly had to give up, you would be allowed to.
Yes, 100%. I'd want the, you know, it's got to work, and I want people to be happy with it, not just because I want to do it. It's for the community of Steyning. It needs to work properly. So I 100% support that.
Okay, lovely. Thank you very much. So John, have we then got a sort of more or less proposal, including all those?
Yes, Chair. I think we've cobbled together something. So to agree the granting of a license to the end of the season, as determined to be October, in this instance.
When the clocks change.
Yeah. The clerk is delegated with ensuring all necessary administrative arrangements are in place before agreeing this, and the SPC reserves the right to terminate this license at will.
Yeah,
that's all right.
Yeah, the words that have disappeared were that the clerk would be doing this expeditiously.
Mm.
You know, because we want it done as quickly as we possibly can.
That you would expedite it as quickly as you can, John. Yeah. When you've been, because you've been delegated it, that you could, yeah, that would be fine. Okay.
I was going to say, you know, obviously, it's just really crossing the T's and dotting the I's. I mean, you know, Shana might want to kind of start doing it tomorrow if the weather's nice. So, I mean, you're just asking the question, can she now carry on? And then all the other things that we've spoken about, she can sort out with John, as you know, in the days forthcoming. Not just have to get all those sorted out before she can start.
Thank you, Rodney. Well, I would certainly say that they've got 3 days left. We should be able to get the work done in 3 days, should we not, Sharma? So you could start at the weekend.
Yeah, I know that I have sent some information across. So I've got confirmation from the Environmental Agency. I know when I spoke to them on the phone, it just said I need to make sure that the ice cream is stored at the correct temperature, and that they will send somebody across when they can, really, because they've got like a backlog. I've got the insurance, I've sent that over, and I've also sent my peddler's license over, because you've got to be checked out by the police before you do these things. Got an old form of selling.
Yeah, right. Well, that's fine. But I mean, you're ready to go. I mean, would the weekend be a good start?
That would be amazing. I'm already outside the tea room, so.
Yeah. Yeah, that should be okay.
Ah.
John will expedite it and you may start then. So the proposal, John, again, we better have it, had we?
Okay, to agree the granting of a license up to the end of the season, determined to be when the clocks change at the end of October, and that SPC reserves the right, and that the clerk is delegated with ensuring all necessary administrative arrangements are in place, and that SPC reserves the right to terminate the license at will, and that the clerk would expedite as quickly as possible this arrangement.
That's amazing. Thank you.
Thank you. Right, what, Gary, you seconding?
I'm seconding still.
Right, lovely. Thank you very much. So all those in favour, please.
That's unanimous. Thank you.
Thank you very much. That's unanimous. Well done, Sharma. That's
Thank you. Thank you. Thank
Great.
you. I'll
Yeah.
go now. Thank you.
righto. Pleasure.
All right.
Bye.
Cheers.
Ah, yeah.
Better mute yourself. So can we move on to the burger ban? I think it is the next one.
Yes, fine.
John, yes, please. Yeah.
Okay, everyone. The second request is for a burger and kebab ban business. As I mentioned in supporting papers, it appeared that Horsham DC were in agreement in principle to this request. We have had discussions with HDC more recently in the last few days leading up to Easter. And they have said that they are hoping to organise a consultation for the local residents and businesses to have their say. They did say that maybe that would be forthcoming so that we could have it before the meeting today, but it hasn't arrived. Otherwise, I would have sent it on to you. It appears that there will be a consultation, because they do understand that if a van such as that were to be parked in the car park, then clearly it would be in competition with other establishments on the high street. So there will be that, but nevertheless, it is an opportunity for us to discuss tonight our thoughts in the meantime, whether we agree in principle or not to what has initially been proposed.
Lovely. Can I invite comments, please? Rodney.
Well, firstly, I think Tim will kind of correct me here. I mean, because it's HDC's car park, they've got to give the license. And will they be charging for it, Tim, that license?
Yeah, absolutely they will. Yes.
Right, okay, because this is the problem, because when you think about it, we've got like 7 eateries in the high street, 3 pubs, they all do food, they all do things, and it could be classed as a bit of unfair competition. I mean, I notice it's daily as well, so it's 7 days a week, up to 10 o'clock at night on a Sunday, but I'm pleased that John's advises that there is going to be a full-scale consultation, because obviously residents around there and other businesses, and maybe the Chamber of Trade should have a point of view on it as well. So that's all I'm saying. And what I think we've got to ensure, because I think, and it's lessons learned, the pizza van, now that they were local residents, just like Shana, and we supported it because they were local residents. I don't think Horsham charged them. I think it was a case of they're local residents, we won't charge you, but they have now sold that business. So the people that are running it now are getting maybe free site in the high street car park, And of course, that is involving us, SPC, because of the creation of all the rubbish, i.e. the boxes on the Saturday morning. You know, because the agreement with the pizza van was that they would go round and collect all the boxes before, you know, they closed down. And they did do that, the previous owners, but these are new people. So I think we've got to really be on top of this one. Otherwise, you know, we could just be creating more work for Steyning as far as litter's concerned. That's all. But, you know, if we're going to have a consultation over it, I think it's good.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Rodney. Sarah?
I agree with all that Councillor Goldsmith has said, but I'd also like to add that if this is going to be a daily thing, that means that we're losing a car parking space each day for quite a long time, and we know how you know, difficult it is sometimes to park. The other thing is, I agree that I think we need to bring in all the other eateries and the Chamber of Trade, because I just feel this is going to be in conflict. I'm also quite concerned that a burger van is usually quite a smelly thing, and I'm just thinking, you know, on a summer's day, it might not be particularly pleasant unless you particularly like you know, the onions and everything. And I'd worry about where the clients are going to be queuing up. You know, if you've got a load of people and you've got cars moving. So I do have some concerns about it.
Thank you, Sarah. Tim?
Thank you, Chair. Yes, I agree with Sarah. This could be a major issue because it is a distinctly more smelly food provider than the pizza van, and I think if I lived near there, I would find that probably quite a nuisance. So I think we need to think seriously about that, although this is really down to Horsham, of course. But the complaints will end up by coming to us, and I'd like Horsham to only agree it after the car park is officially closed. Because we may need that right up until the last minute, and as Sarah rightly said, where the people are going to queue, and we don't want the car parking disrupted. And going back to the smell issue, obviously it will be key as to where the van is actually placed. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, thank you. So we're going to wait. I think we need really to wait until the survey has been done, the consultation, before we make a decision one way or the other. I mean, I get the vibes that obviously it's not a good thing. However, we really ought to wait until the consultation is over before we have another discussion and put it to the vote. Paul?
I'd largely like to echo what other people have said. I'd also perhaps ought to declare a personal interest, given that I overlook the car park. And the thing that would concern me, in addition, well, no, we've got this. I suppose I'm reiterating the conflict with the usage. 4 o'clock in the afternoon for a starting time seems very early to me. I think being in competition with the pizza van is potentially a problem. Certainly there's safety issues around the use of the car park, as other people have said. And just to emphasise the smell point, the pizza van, you know, the smell of wood smoke, it's quite strong sometimes, but at least it's not unpleasant. But, you know, greasy old burger van out there, quite apart from its effect on me, I think there's quite an effect on the centre of the town. I don't think we want. So unless there's some really sophisticated smoke and fat collecting system in the flue, which I think you can get in buildings, but whether you can get it on a van or not, I don't know. But I'd be really concerned about that drifting down the high street.
Thank you. Yeah, Rodney.
I was going to say, Paul, I mean, you know, it'll save you cooking.
Tim.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, I just a big concern that Horsham have agreed this in principle without consultation with us. So I think we ought to take that up with them.
John. Were you putting your hand up?
Yes, through you, Chair. Yes, so they haven't agreed that it would go ahead, you know, subject to our agreement. They were in principle saying that they couldn't see, you know, necessarily an issue, but they did understand after our discussion that maybe, you know, there would be some. And to that end, they have decided that there really ought to be a consultation.
Okay.
So they are fully considering this. As Rodney said before, this is their car park. It is ultimately what, and in terms of payment, all of those arrangements are between the vendor and Horsham and the licenses and what have you. But they do have to take into consideration the very many issues that have been brought up tonight, and actually that, you know, I've mentioned before anyway. So that's why there's a consultation. So this evening, it was really just to get a feel for what we thought, and maybe if you want me to report back initial thoughts from this committee, I would be happy to do so, because then that would start the ball rolling in terms of the consultation process, I would suggest.
Good idea. Sarah, your
Sorry, my concern is with the installation of the notice board. I believe the Steyning Parish Council Planning Committee voted against that, and yet HDC were very much, well, they overrode us basically. So my concern is that HDC will think, oh, we're going to get money out of a license, and they're not really going to take much notice of Steyning saying, you know, we have concerns particularly about our eateries and trying to keep our high street going.
thank you, Sarah. John.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Well, I would say that as it had been brought up earlier, you know, the issue with taking up car parking bays and spaces as early as 4 p.m. will actually be a problem in terms of them reaping financial reward. So it just doesn't come down to this one individual granting of license and whatever they get there. There will be some less income areas that need to be considered as well. And maybe that hasn't necessarily occurred to them. So that's why, you know, me getting back to them with these thoughts from this committee isn't such a bad idea.
Thank you. So shall we leave that we wait for the consultation, John to report back to Horsham, the consultation to begin, and then we talk about it at the next meeting if they've finished the consultation by then. All right.
Yep.
Good. Okay, lovely. Thank you. Lovely. Right. Right, so grass cutting update, and to discuss and agree request from Roger Brown, Abbey Road grass cutting regime amendment, and whether to set up an advisory group for Abbey Road and to receive the Abbey Road report. Could we just have the grass cutting update first from Hazel, please? And then when we've got past that, we will, and the amendment, then we'll please ask Roger to speak. Hello, Roger.
Did you want the grass cutting first?
Yes, please.
Okay, so the grass cutting began last week. The Abbey Road meadow was cut last week. All of Abbey Road was cut actually. And the MPF has also been cut. The allotment paths have been cut. And all the play areas have been done. I think everything has actually been started and is going fine.
Thank you very much, Hazel. Thank you. Roger, would you like to?
Yeah, again, Deborah, yes, thank you. Yes, as Hazel said, the main meadow, the meadow area that we're trying to work on in the middle of Abbey Road was cut and collected, and the rising stored on site like it was last year a couple of times. It was done while it was still quite wet. As Hazel said earlier on, the ground conditions weren't really very good towards the end of of March, so it got done beginning of right at the beginning of April, I think, and it was pretty muddy still, but didn't really matter. We've it's a good ground now for stowing a bit more seed in, so it'll recover quite quickly, I think now. Yeah, the point of the putting on the agenda was to ask for this variance of the contract to actually postpone or cancel now the cut, which I think is still in the contract, for cutting the grass for the second time in May each year. Excuse me. This would cut the heads off a lot of the flowering grasses and wildflowers that we intend to plant or sow in this area. So the advice from experts looking at restoring flowering meadows is to really cut twice, once early and once late. So I'd like to suggest that the contract is amended to say that the grass is cut twice a year on this meadow area, talking about only, not the rest of Abbey Road, of course, in late March and again in late September, with the proviso that if the ground conditions are very bad in March, then it can go just into the first week or 10 days of April or so if necessary. And that's, I'll leave the second one for now, but that's the grass cutting proposal, or change of the contract proposal.
Lovely, thank you very much, Roger. So are we all happy that we change the contract to just be twice a year, in late March, early April and late September, and leave out the May cuttings? So I'd like to propose that we just change the contract to that, please. Sarah, are you seconding that? Thank you. All those in favour, please. Thank you. Thank you. There we go, Roger. That's great. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. And Roger, would you like now to talk about your advisory group?
Yeah, okay. Well, this has come about after you agreed the management plan for Abbey Road, which is obviously on the table now. We are working to it. The next stage was, or still is, to produce action plans for each of the various habitats on site. And this is something that Tony Whitbread and Craig Daters, the two experts that are really guiding us on this, both suggested was a good thing to do, because it is quite a varied site and there's not just one action plan that will work for the whole site. So we'll have one for the meadow, one for the pond, one for the scrub, one for the woodland, and they all will be working to a different timetable. But I don't profess to be an expert in anything particularly, just a keen amateur in lots of things, which is perhaps dangerous. So I really wanted to get some expert advice, or a panel of people who know about these things to guide us in those habitat action plans. And so this is the proposal, that I get a group of 4 or 5, will be local people certainly, to walk around the site with me with those habitat action plans in hand, 3, perhaps 4 times a year, just to assess what we've done in the past, how it's affected each of those habitats, how perhaps we need to change the habitat plan for the future if it's not quite working. And then really each of those habitat plans becomes a working document. And certainly we'll come back, or I will come back to this committee with the habitat plans once they're set up. That will take a few months from now, I suspect. And then if the advisory group agrees or recommends any changes to those plans, then again I'll come back to this committee with those proposed changes. So you're fully aware of what's happening there. Obviously it's your land, it's village green land, so we must do things properly there. But I think this would be a great help to me and the rest of the volunteers to have this sort of expert panel on hand to advise and to review these action plans. As I said in my notes, which is attached to the meeting, I think item, where are we? Item 6.2. 6.2 was a monthly report and a note about this. I've canvassed a couple of people so far, and I've actually had a chat with Tony Whitbread over the last few days just to sound him out, and he's very keen still to be involved with the whole project, which is great. I thought, being as busy chap he is, he may have had so many other things on his plate that perhaps he wanted to shed this one, but he's very happy to view the habitat plans, comment on them, and come around on some of our walks as well. So I'm really very pleased that he's still able to help us with this. So that's my proposal, Chair, if that could be discussed.
Thank you very much, Roger. Would anybody like to? Paul?
Yeah, I'd like to thank Roger for making this proposal. I think it's a terrific idea. And I mean, basically, I think that we shouldn't get too involved in the detail on it. I think we could trust Roger to form the group with people that he thinks are sensible. And we just let Roger get on with it with a view to reporting back to us from time to time. I mean, I've just scribbled down a proposal as Roger's been speaking. I don't know whether this would do it, which would be that Roger forms and leads an advisory group to provide the committee with periodic reports and recommendations concerning ecological matters at Abbey Road Village Green Open Space.
Lovely, thank you very much. So would you like to, Sarah?
I'd be happy to second that. Roger, can you just remind people, in case there's members of the public listening, I know Craig Dacres, he's one of the
he's the South Wales National Park lead ranger.
Yeah, because he came down. But can you just, for the benefit of people who might not know who Tony is, if you could just refresh people's memory?
Yeah, sure. Yeah,
very
Tony,
well known.
Tony Whitbread was the CEO, Chief Executive Officer of the Sussex Wildlife Trust for 15 years, I believe. He retired a few years back, and he is recognised as the most senior sort of ecologist in certainly in West Sussex, probably across the country. He still advises the wildlife trusts on woodland matters, for instance. So he is a national advisor in some areas, and he's now the lifetime president of the Sussex Wildlife Trust. Although retired, I think he's just as busy as always was, actually. But so yeah, good guy to have on board, certainly.
Fine, thank you very much. Tim.
Thank you, Chair. Yes, if we're going to make this recommendation, I would just like clarification from Roger, if we could, as to whether it was his intention to have some councillors on this advisory board.
I must admit it wasn't, Tim, no. The reason being that I wanted it to be a panel of experts in particular areas. So I'm looking at a birder who's already doing the bird surveys, actually. Someone who's got experience with water habitats, so freshwater habitats. Tony would be a sort of overall advisor. Someone who's got experience of managing woodlands, for instance, would be very useful. So I don't think there's, unless I don't understand, there's no obvious expert across the current parish councillors. There may be in the new elections. I don't know who's standing, but so I imagine that it would work with advisors, with myself, and then with myself liaising with whoever's nominated from the parish council to be working with us, or I come direct to this committee every month if need be to report on progress and to sort of raise any issues that might have cropped up.
Thank you, Roger. Tim.
Chair, thank you. Yeah, it would be unusual for us to have almost like a working group of the council without councillors being involved in it. But I actually question whether we need to be having this motion at all. It would be entirely up to Roger and a group of residents if they want to get together to form an advisory group. Roger reports back to us anyway. I think it's a great idea. I just wonder whether we need to ratify it. It's just entirely down to Roger and his group of experts who may want to advise us as a council as to how to manage the village green. If we're going to, of course, make it a motion, I really think then we should have at least one councillor representative on it. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Well, I would be quite happy to have Roger lead and make up the advisory group as part of his leadership of the Abbey Road project. I completely agree with you, Tim, I don't think that we really need to be involved, except to have a report, Roger, as you do reporting on the Abbey Road monthly, just report any findings from your group, advisory group as well.
Would you like me to reply? Okay. Yes, I just felt I needed to just present this to you because I didn't want to be seen to be sort of taking over the whole project and doing it sort of behind your backs and you're not aware of what's going on and there's Roger doing something else and he's doing this and he's doing that. I wanted to be completely upfront and transparent and honest with you that it's a group of people, a group of experts looking at the site, proposing changes, but those changes will then come back to this committee through me. But don't forget, we've still got the conservation volunteers. I was going to just mention that very briefly, if I may, just for a minute. You know, the work days have been suspended, of course, because of COVID. I've got the next 3 set up now. And I've let John, I hope I let John know about these dates. I think I did. It's next Saturday, then the 17th of April and the 1st of May, where we have six volunteers, myself and 5 others, for those 3 sessions. And that will actually involve 15 people out of our 22 volunteers. And of course, we have got 1 councillor on that conservation volunteer group, Simon. And as I understood it, Simon was the liaison between that conservation group and the council. So that link is still there if Simon's still performing that duty, which you'll have to advise me of that if that changes. But for the moment, that is the case. So there is a link from us, council, through a councillor. But if you're happy for me to take the advisory group and run it and simply report what goes through the advisory group through my monthly reports, well, that's fine. At least you know it's happening and I'm not doing it without you realising it's happening.
Thank you for that, Roger. Rodney.
I was just going to say, I think Roger's got quite a good track record, you know, what with the Rubley's hedge, the allotments, the orchard. So, you know, I mean, I'd be quite happy, you know, for him to carry on and then report back to us.
Yeah.
Yeah. So,
Okay.
thank you.
Okay.
Good. Well, I think that solves it, Roger.
Okay, that's great. Good. Thank you.
That's really good. Thank you very much.
Okay, thanks so much indeed.
Okay, thank you. And would you like to take us through your report?
Well, I don't think I need to. There's only just 2 updates, actually, Deborah. I don't think I need to read it through it.
Okay,
It's there on the record.
Yeah.
I did just mention the work days, so we've got those 3 set up. Hopefully, after the 17th of May, we'll be able to have our regular monthly sessions back again. I'm aware it is quite a small site, and we've got quite a lot of volunteers. So that's part of the reason for having these experts on board with the habitat plans to make sure we don't over-manage the site. It's very easy to say, well, I've got 10 people, what are we going to cut down next, sort of thing. That's not really the approach. We want to do work that we know we need to do to manage the site sensitively. So maybe times when we don't need a big group of people each month. We may suspend the group for parts of the summer, for instance, where perhaps it's best to just leave it alone. But yeah, so that's starting again, which is great. Can I just mention one other thing to you, which has come in the last week, and that's the Ouse and Ada Rivers Trust. Such a mouthful, OART. They've now confirmed 2 dates when they're going to come and do some work with us on site. 21st of May, they're going to be carrying out an invertebrate study on the Tanyard stream as it goes through Abbey Road site. The last full survey I found was done by the Environment Agency in 2001, so 20 years ago they did a full survey. So the comparison between those 2 surveys is going to be quite revealing. have things got better or have things got worse? But at least it'll give us a baseline for future surveys that we do. And they're very happy for some of our volunteers to take part in that survey as well. I don't think we'd be getting in the water with waders with them, to be honest, but I think we might help process some of the stuff they find and log it and record it and photograph it, etc. So that'd be good fun. And then on the 16th of June, sorry, John, I'm reading this out to you. Could you make a note of them? 21st of May and 16th of June.
Yeah.
They're coming back to do what they call in-stream habitat improvement, which basically means, I think it's happened before. I mean, remember Rodney talking to us about this some time ago, when the Rivers Trust wanted to put some willow structures actually in the stream itself to create sort of eddies and a little diversion streams and little, well, I suppose little pools, really, pools of water, just to make the flow not just go in a straight line. So it goes from left to right and left to right. And that creates different habitats for different animals that live in the stream, particularly for brown trout, because they require a gravel substrate, and creating these sort of flows wipe some of the mud away so that the brown trout have got better spawning areas. So they've already asked us if we can retain some of the willow that we're cutting off the site. We've got a huge stash of willow at the moment, and take it over towards the stream so we can use it on the 16th of June to create these willow structures. They're baffles in the water, basically. You drive stakes into the stream bed and then weave willow in and out of them to create these little flows. And they're happy for our volunteers to help with that as well. So we've got 2 dates with the Ouse and Ada Rivers Trust. So I think that's it. Thank you, Deborah.
Thank you very much, Roger. Great report, and I think it's a really good idea about the advisory group. So thank you very much, and good luck on your work day.
Good. Thank you very much indeed.
Thank you, Roger, very much. Okay, bye-bye. So if we could move on to the allotments, please. An update from the allotment working party in regard to the new allotment agreement, and discuss and agree any actions arising. Tim, you said you'd major on this, please.
Yeah, Chair, I'm quite happy to do that. But I was just wondering whether we should discuss 7.2 first, because obviously bonfires are part of the agreement, and in the tenancy agreement that we put forward, we have prohibited in, I think it's item 35, that bonfires are prohibited. So I thought before we discuss the tenancy agreement, perhaps we should just agree whether we're going to allow bonfires or not.
Right, okay. So I would like to move 7.1 up a slot, please, and we receive the allotment report and discuss and agree that bonfires be allowed for this year during the annual clearing up weekend, and agree how many skips are to be delivered to both allotment sites. So John.
Well, I would say that's absolutely fair enough. We discussed this point first, but what we're trying to do with the previous point, 7.1, is come to an agreement so that, remember, we were then to send a draft out to our plot holders to ask for their responses and ideas. So we wouldn't be agreeing a new allotment agreement tonight, so it wouldn't interfere with what we were hoping to do with regard to our open weekend. So just to...
Okay, all right, well, fine. In that case, I can take back my suggestion. That's fine.
Well, I'm still happy to move it up. To, I don't think it really matters in which order we take it.
Yeah.
So right. Yeah, fine. Sarah.
I don't know whether there's been some confusion with the Rubley's tenants, but I thought we'd agreed at a previous meeting that, particularly because there was already quite a stack of wood down the Spring Meadow end of the Rubley's allotments, I thought we were going to let allotment holders have that one final bonfire. And it seems that some of the tenants have got perhaps a little bit confused, because the skip is absolutely full of wood which could have been burnt. So it could have been put on the bonfire pile they've already got. So I think some of the tenants have got a bit confused and thought they're not allowed any bonfires already, because instead of adding it to the bonfire pile, they've put it in the skip and filled up. A lot of that skip has got wood in.
Right, thank you, Sarah. I do remember at the last meeting we did discuss, or Sally had a question which Paul answered. Might have been the meeting before last, or it might have been last meeting. which was that there would be a bonfire allowed this year, providing HDC hadn't clamped down on them, and apparently they hadn't, and so we were allowing one last bonfire. So we did confirm that we were allowed that. John.
Yes, and that went out in an email and letter to all allotment holders that we were hoping to burn piles of rubbish at both sites, and that they were able to utilise the skips. I did go into some details as to how they should use it, but you know, not everyone reads all the details in terms of emails and information that we give out. There's always bound to be people who just want to offload rubbish. So we are still hoping to go ahead with that, and that's why it's on the agenda, because I just wanted to officially not only agree that we were doing it and we were happy with it, but as I put in supporting papers, that we would have some idea as to who was going to be managing it, whether councillors were going to be involved, the date in which it was going to be undertaken, the fact that I'd be doing a risk assessment, the fact that maybe there would be further provision of skips, more than one at Rubley's on that day, so that it was just to tie up some of the arrangements for a day that, you know, we have similar days put together in the past and that have been very successful. I just wanted our current committee to approve the details, please.
So could we, just before this clearing up weekend, we have got 3 dates for the clearing up weekend, because it looks as if this Saturday is going to be pouring with rain according to the weather forecast. So that might not be conducive to getting a lot of the allotment holders or even councillors out to the allotments. So we've earmarked the next 2 Saturdays, the 17th and the 24th, if it isn't raining or windy, because we can't have a bonfire if it's windy, and probably not if it's raining as well. So those are the 3 dates. But I think probably this weekend coming is out because of the rain, which is forecast to be all day, isn't it, John?
It is currently.
Yeah, currently forecast to be all day. So I think we'll go with probably go with the other 2 weekends in the hopes that the weather has improved by then. So it would be good if we could have some volunteers from the council to attend or aid, depending on how they feel about it, on either of those 2, whichever date is chosen. I've said that I will go up. Not that I'm going to do a lot of heaving, but I'm quite happy to attend the morning day. Yeah, thank you. So could we have the allotment report then, John?
Well,
we're just going to receive it.
Well, shall we look at maybe the details of the day?
Oh yeah,
Sorry, through you, Chair.
Yeah, go on.
So if we think about a start time maybe at 11 o'clock, and that we're there for 2 or 3 hours, this is what we've done before. So we're, you know, effectively there and managing it for 2 or 3 hours up until 2 p.m. and then we'd be sort of effectively dousing down the bonfires if we start them promptly. We're also there to oversee the movement of other rubbish to skips, of course. Just by way of information, you may recall that in previous years, some haven't been on this committee, in previous years we have had the support, help from the local scout group, which has been wonderful. That was very much required in the first year because there was so much debris and so much to burn. but we've been able to make do last year without, and I think again this year we've made significant progress. So it's just the way in which we put it together this time.
Right. Yes. So are there any volunteers from amongst the councillors? Tim.
Yes, no, I'll volunteer. I should be able to make both those.
Thank you. Thank you. Anybody else? Sarah? You're muted.
You're muted.
Unless something comes up on site, then I'll come along. But I think we were also going to discuss whether they can have other skips. It says, and to agree how many skips are to be delivered to both allotments.
Yeah. Yeah.
John.
Yes, that's an important one financially, obviously, because each individual, thank you, Sarah, each individual skip worth 253, as I mentioned. So that's, that's £2,000. So we do need agreement at this committee that we would be willing to spend that amount on sort of continuous provision, up to 8 or beyond, depending on what you suggest. But I would suggest, certainly as we're hoping for a bonfire, that not more than 8 would be appropriate.
Okay. Lovely. Thank you. So is that the only proposal in that?
Sarah and Gary got there.
Oh, sorry, Sarah. Gary?
Oh,
you said 253 on your briefing note. It says 235.
That's got it 5 and 3 back.
I think I transposed incorrectly then.
Yeah.
I think it's the other way around.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you.
So, sorry, would you?
I was just going to say, as they are, over a couple of £100, that's why it's so annoying that so much wood has been put in one and filled it up when we could have actually burnt that wood.
Right, thank you, Sarah. Thank you. Right, so could I propose that we give the go-ahead to John, delegated to John, to order up to 8 skips for the 2 allotments to be delivered as and when they are full. John.
Sorry, can I just confirm, it is actually 235. The briefing paper was correct. I've transposed incorrectly tonight as 235. Thanks, Gary, for bringing that up. And back to the proposal.
Yeah, so well, that's it really. Yes, can I have a second of that, please? Thank you. All those in favour? Thank you.
Unanimous?
Unanimous. Thank you, John. That's great. That one done. Allotment
We've got
report.
that. Sorry.
Yeah.
Bonfire, management of it.
Yes. Yes.
If we mention how we're going to manage it.
Yeah, yeah. So John is going to do a risk assessment for the bonfire, and I think come up with a management plan for it.
Well, in the absence of any, thank you, Chair. In the absence of anyone else volunteering, and certainly I wouldn't want a member of the public to be managing it on our behalf. So therefore, I will suggest that I will do it on the day, and that we make our first choice the 17th and the second choice the 24th, 11 till 2, if that's okay.
Yeah, lovely. Thank you.
Oh.
Right, Rodney?
Well, I was going to say, what about Steve, the caretaker? Because he obviously knows everyone up there now. I mean, he would be I would have thought, the best guy to be the link with the bonfire.
Well, the thing is that Steve may well volunteer to come up, I think, but he doesn't hold a certificate like John does for risk assessment.
Yes,
Is that right?
And through you, Chair, we have discussed his involvement, and we haven't specifically talked about this day, but previously he said he was happy to assist, but he wouldn't necessarily want to take on the burden of managing a bonfire. So thanks, Rodney. He said he would like to assist, but not manage.
So is everybody happy with that? Do we have to propose that?
Don't have to,
Just agree, we all agree that, please, that John takes on the management. Please, thank you. Okay, lovely. Right, so I think that's 7.2 covered. Could we go back to 7.1 and Tim, please, and the allotment agreement?
Yes, thank you, Chair. Well, all the members have received the the altered tenancy agreement. Paul was tasked to come back with a couple of things, then came back with some others as well, and I believe those have been added. I think the only thing that was left off was the paragraph referring to the amortizing, for want of a better word, of the costs of the extra water if the hose pipes were put in, because obviously that decision hasn't yet been made. But apart from that, I think everything that was required was put in. In 26, not to use sunken bars ponds as ponds of water storage, the committee added a paragraph there which members can see. And frankly, as I say, this has been to and fro quite a few times. So unless anybody's got anything else to add, I would suggest that this is now ready to go to the allotment holders for consultation.
Thank you, Tim. Paul.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you. Yeah, I mean, there are quite a few sort of minor drafting issues, which I think we can probably pick up once we've had the consultation. I mean, just things like the convention that if you define something, you give it a capital letter. So the plot ought to be with a capital P all the way through, just like the council is a capital C, etc. So I don't know why somebody changed that. But there are three important clauses that I just wanted to speak to. The first one I want to speak about is the one on page 2, paragraph 9, about the payment of the rent. Because I wrote to the Working Party and the clerks to say that it seemed very clear to me that the Allotment Act 1950 says that you can only demand a quarter's, no more than a quarter's rent in advance. And the response has been, in a sense, well, we don't really care what the Act says, it's just easier for us to do it. So I was going to ask John to explain why, yet again, legality seems to be a sort of optional extra for this council. If the Act says what it says, which it does, unless I've missed some repeal provision, there is both case law and the Act itself saying that only a quarter's rent can be demanded in advance. So why are we demanding a year in advance?
Well, I hadn't seen that as a current law that we needed to abide by. I think I mentioned that I was happy to go to our solicitor just to double check, because when we went to NAUC, it seemed that was an option rather than a definite requirement, and that certainly many other councils, in fact all the other councils that we had seen, were asking for annual payment rather than quarterly. So I'm happy still to progress and ask the solicitor for a final, unless we have already done so. Hazel, did you?
No, I was just going to say the SLCC template that is also sending out templates, that template is annual payments.
Yeah, so thank you, Hazel. So the advice that we've seen so far is that annual is perfectly acceptable, but you know, and one would assume therefore that it's the previous Act has been superseded, but I can ask the solicitor for his agreement if that's what we so wish.
Thank you. Paul.
Could I just say that it may well be payable annually, you can collect it annually, but you can only collect a quarter in advance and 3/4 in arrear. So that kind of dictates, so you can collect 12 months worth, but it dictates the date on which you collect it, as I see it. But the wording of the Act is absolutely specific. So I don't see why anybody would think it was optional, unless I've missed a repeal provision, which I don't believe I have.
Thank you.
So
Sarah.
I don't recall you saying
Sorry.
I would go to the solicitor.
Sarah.
Sorry, I was just going to say I looked up the Act and I couldn't find any repeal anywhere. So I agree with Councillor Campbell.
Right, okay. So does that mean that on the same day we can have a year's rent, but 3/4 of it would be in arrears and a quarter of it would be in advance?
Well, that's how I read it, Chair, but I'm not the legal advisor to the council. John's the person who advises the council.
Yes, so that's fine. So we'll have a look at that, but I don't think it's anything that we need worry about for sending out to the allotment holders. If we've already said, well, we'll have a look at that. Tim.
No, Chair, if it is correct what Paul's saying, then obviously it should go into the agreement before we go to consultation. So I don't think we should send it out until we've had that verification.
Right, okay then, Tim, that's fine. Okay, so that one we'll wait until we've had verification. Yeah, thanks very much. Paul, you had a couple of others.
Yes, thank you, Chair. So we haven't got any page numbers. This is the appendix. Appendix 1, tenant provision 3, which is on page 1, 2, 3, on page 4, Chair. This is the one where, again, I wrote to the committee saying that I thought it was completely wrong in principle, that we've, in effect, got collective punishment, which is something that dictators do, but not in a democracy. I would say it's also a breach of human rights. You can't say, in my opinion, that if there's two people with an unresolved, well, what it says, there's an unresolved dispute and no one party can be proven as being in breach of any of the site rules, so we can end the tenancy of them both. I mean, this is not the way that a democracy works. If somebody's in breach, we terminate their agreement. If there's nobody in breach or we can't show somebody's in breach, we don't terminate it. I just think this is utterly wrong in principle to punish two people when one or neither may be at fault.
I have to say, I thought we'd taken that out.
Chair, I may.
Yes, Tim.
There was a confusion at the meeting between that and the section 3 on page 1. So I agree. I thought that we had agreed that should be taken out anyway.
Yeah. So are you happy that we agreed to take that out, Paul? As we think we had taken it out.
Well, yes, sure. I mean, if it's just there by mistake and it's coming out, there's no problem at all.
No. Okay, good. That's fine. So we'll take that out, John. Yeah. Okay, good. And
so the only other one I wanted to specifically talk to, please, Chair, is Regulation 31 and 32, which is about the water. I mean, basically 31 should come out altogether because 32 deals with with it. Otherwise, you're just repeating the same thing in a different way. So 31 needs to come out. 32 deals with it. And I just don't really understand why the provision that I suggested about what would happen if and when a water meter is provided has come out, because it doesn't come into effect unless and until there is a water meter. So it sits there doing nothing at all unless and until we agree it. But it avoids the need for us to redraw all the tenancy agreements and reissue them, etc. If we do decide that we're going to have a metered water supply and hoses charged in that way. So I don't really know why it's come out, but I'd like to suggest it goes back in again, because it would be a really useful thing for the allotment people to be consulted on, because they could either say, yes, we think it's a great idea, or we'll rise up with pitchforks because it's so awful.
Lovely, thank you. Kim.
Yeah, I think the committee considered that the water meter issue hadn't, as I say, because we hadn't agreed on the hose pipes and how it was going to work, it wasn't necessarily the way that the charging would go. Other councils charge every single tenant for the use of a hose pipe, or for the extra water, let's call it like that, and that's equally divided amongst them all. So I think that needed a little bit more discussion, and that's really why it was left out, rather than put ourselves into a position where we agree this now, and it may change subsequently anyway.
Sarah, you had your hand up.
I think Councillor Campbell's got his hand up.
Which is that, of course, we're not agreeing this now. This is going out to consultation. And I would have thought that it would be a really, really useful thing to consult on the water arrangements. I mean, if it all comes back and says, oh no, we'd all like to pay equally, even if we're not using a hose, which would be rather an extraordinary thing in my opinion. But if they come back and say that, then let's hear it. But I don't understand why we're not wanting to consult on it.
Well, if we're going to put in the meter, maybe we should give them the option that should the hose pipes go ahead, that either a meter or shared costs amongst all of the allotment holders, which gives everybody the option to bring in a hose if they want to.
Sarah.
I agree with Councillor Campbell. I think it should go in, because I think it stops us having to come back and revisit this, and we're only, we might as well put it in, because as I said, it saves us having to go back to this at a later date, and it is a way of consulting with our tenants, and I do think their views should be heard.
Mm-hmm. Yes, I mean, I agree with you, but I think, like as Tim says, perhaps we need to put the two options in, so that they do actually have an alternative there to agree to or not. So, Paul, would you be happy to draft something to that effect, please?
Well, no, not really, Chair. I mean, what I would suggest is leave it out for now and consult quite separately but simultaneously on this water thing. So we send this out and we say we're thinking of that there will be a change in the hose methods, and if and when that happens, blah blah blah.
No, I think that's a good idea, Chair. Yeah. So why don't we do that? It would actually focus their minds onto the way in which it's going to be done.
It's a good idea, Paul. Thank you very much. Apart from those two things that we're going to alter and one that we're going to take out, and possibly take out 31 as well.
Yeah.
Because it is duplicated in 32. Are we happy that if it's emailed round, would we be happy to send that out to consultation to the allotment holders when those have been done? Sarah?
I'm just going to say on item 26, I have no idea what a pond ladder is, but I mean, we've already said that ponds must be located away from paths, should be shallow enough to enable pond life to get out. I don't think we need to put in or provide a pond ladder. I mean, what is a pond ladder? I think it's unnecessary to have that in there.
Tim?
Thank you, Chair. Well, every person I know who has a pond has a ramp, or what they call a pond ladder, to allow non-pond life to get out of it. I think we're picking at things here unnecessarily. It doesn't really matter. At the end of the day, I think it's something that people should be aware of, and personally, they should include it.
Thank you.
Can I just say that I agree with Councillor Lloyd that we can come back to that. It's a minor drafting point. I mean, I don't think it's an issue of whether it's shallow enough. It's whether the sides are sloping sufficiently shallow, less steep. But I mean, that's a minor drafting matter, and there are quite a few minor drafting matters. But I think personally that we've dealt with the major things that need to be addressed.
So are we content that with those minor, sorry, Tim?
No, I was just going to make a proposal that, I propose that the tenancy agreement goes out for consultation to both Rubley's and Canada Gardens. Allotment tenants, as drawn up by the working party, with the exclusion of paragraph 3 of the tenant's obligations, and where are we? Paragraph 31 of the what do you call it? It's appendix, isn't it? Oh, so many bits of paper here. Excuse me.
Allotment regulations.
Thank you. The allotment regulations, and with the exclusion of, where was the other one that we excluded? Number 3, wasn't it?
Clause 9, Chair, on page 2.
Is that under the letting?
Yes.
No, under letting.
Yeah, no, but there was another one that we had in that actually we were supposed to take out. What?
Oh, that was number 3 of the tenant shall. So
yeah, that's it.
Subject to those alterations, that this goes through to consultation with the allotment holders.
I'll second that.
We were also going to simultaneously consult on the water
Yes,
charge.
Yeah, correct. Yes.
Okay, lovely. So I'll second that. John, do you want to read it out? Not really, no. Are we all clear that subject to the changes and the that we're going to consult about the water with the allotment holders, meters or not, that we send this out to the allotment holders for their consultation?
Well, I propose that, Chair.
Yeah, and I'm seconding that. Yeah.
I'm a bit confused actually, because if John can't articulate what it is, then we're in trouble, aren't we?
Listen to the recording is what I intend to do.
Yes, may I?
Yeah, go on,
Chair. So the committee, if I just put what I got, yes, but in terms of the detail, we will be listening to the recording. But just so that you're aware, the committee agreed to send out the draft allotment tenancy agreement, that it goes out in consultation to the allotment holders as drawn up by the working party, excluding paragraph 3 and paragraph 31 of the appendix, and subject to checking paragraph 9 under the lettings arrangements, and that simultaneously to consult regards the provision of water meters, or not as the case may be. That was it.
With the allotment holders.
With the allotment holders, yeah.
Yes. The only reason he hadn't managed to get it out was because he was still writing it down. That's all.
Sorry, Chair, I don't think that's quite right. It isn't a consultation on whether there's going to be meters or not. It's a consultation on, if there are meters, how the water charges are going to be apportioned.
Right, thank you.
Because the proposal that in this was that it would only be those who use the hoses who will be charged an equal proportion, and other members of the working party seem to think that it would be appropriate for everybody to be charged an equal proportion, even if they weren't using the hoses.
Well, I suppose that is something that we actually, as a committee working party, basically, have not decided on as something to put forward. So I guess that's why you suggested the consultation.
Yeah, on the two alternatives that the working party came up with.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Tim.
Yeah, Paul's wording is correct. So if you just put that down and we can get on and vote on it.
To include and how water charges are apportioned.
Paul?
Well,
was it that?
I think so, but I don't know what the preceding words were. What was it? What have you said about meters, please, John?
So, and simultaneously consult with plot holders on the water meters and how water charges are apportioned.
Well,
with those allotment holders.
How the charge for hose use will be apportioned if a separate meter is provided for hoses.
Yes, okay. But it would be a consultation with regard to the water meters and how those charges are apportioned. I can work out the details within, the consultation that I send out, if that's okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
Yeah, I think we all know what we're driving at.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think we've got to the stage where I've seconded Tim's proposal that this is sent out to the allotment holders with all done to it. Thank you. So could I have those in favour, please?
Unanimous. Thank you.
Thank you very much. That's great. Good. Lovely. So anything more on that? Update from the allotment working party. Did we do that? Oh, sorry, that's the working party. Sorry, yeah. Sorry, yeah. Steyning Centre report, item 8. Hazel, please.
Are you taking the report that's gone out as read?
Yes, that would be fine. Yes, if everybody's in agreement.
No.
Rodney.
Steyning Centre income. It says grants received from Horsham District Council is £24,000.
Yeah, it is.
Okay.
We had a £10,000 grant, then that was followed by a £2,000 grant, and in the last 2 weeks we've received another 12,000.
Right. Okay. Yeah. No, that is a difference, because obviously that makes quite a big difference. But if it's within the last fortnight, it's a shame you couldn't have let us know, and then I wouldn't have had to raise
I'm
this.
letting you know now. So.
Sorry.
I'm letting you know now in the report.
Yeah, I know, but I wouldn't have had to ask you and query it if we knew. It's a simple little thing, but and that is good that we've got an extra 12 grand. Fantastic, well done.
Thank you.
But just let us know. Anyway.
Well, there hasn't been a meeting until now to
no, but there is such a thing as email, and just a little kind of two lined thing. We've got another 12 grand. It's good for you. That's the whole point. Okay. The other thing I was going to say, there are one or two little queries but of course that's thrown me a wee bit. So
Well, Rodney, at the moment, we're just looking at the Steyning Centre report. We haven't got on to either of the other two items. We're just literally looking at the Steyning Centre report, which came in as a supporting paper last week. So Hazel, is there anything else you'd like us to accept this Steyning Centre report as read? Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
if you're happy to.
Right, okay, thank you very much. Good. Need to accept it. Right, don't need to. So Hazel, lighting works report, please.
John, did you have that written down? Or?
John, sorry, yeah, sorry, Hazel.
Through you, Chair. As per briefing notes, but for the benefit of residents also, recently accepted a quote to replace 6x LED fittings on the inside of the toilet block adjacent to the Steyning Centre. Also, we were going to replace waterlogged, broken, badly discoloured bulkhead lights around the exterior of the Steyning Centre. Again, LED lights, as I mentioned in reference to a question from a resident earlier. And most importantly, in terms of the LED lighting installation programme, we have completed, or the contractors have completed, the Saxon room, the offices, the committee rooms, the foyer, and the corridor. And in the corridor, we've got automatic light sensors as well to turn those on and off depending on movements, in the same way as our toilets. So we're, making double savings there. This has come in under budget, which is fairly joyful, which again, as I mentioned earlier, means that we can move into the phase 2 and 3 areas. So yet to be done are some of the cupboards, toilets, the upstairs region, and most significantly, Coombe Court with the large pendant lights. So we'll be looking to progress that into the next year.
Thanks very much. That's John. Thank you. And then finance, please.
Chair, could I ask, Chair?
Oh, sorry.
Could I ask some questions about this item and make some observations?
Which item?
8.2, the lighting works report.
Oh, the lighting works, right, yeah.
The first is to express a concern that items 1 and 2, we're just being told they've been carried out. There wasn't any discussion with the committee as to whether this was an appropriate way to spend the council's money. Now, as far as I can see, our financial regulations have got 2 things to say about this. The first is that you can't disaggregate in order to get yourself under the various delegated funding levels. And that's what seems to be happening here. The contract's been disaggregated. And secondly, well, sorry, moving on. We've got the Rampion money, as I understand it, is ring-fenced. So that money has been sitting there for a very long time, and I'm not clear quite what is dictating the timescales. And what John seemed to be suggesting was that the next phase would be done as these 2 items have been done. They would just be done by the office rather than in consultation with the committee. Have I misunderstood that?
We agreed, John.
Sorry, I think Tim just...
Oh, Tim, sorry.
No, so well, John may well answer the question. As far as I was aware, this was all done as part of a programme, wasn't it? Many months ago, and all we're doing is putting the lights in according to the programme that was set down. But perhaps John could just explain that.
Sure.
Yeah, and answering the first point first, I guess. In terms of contract, this isn't a contract. The first 2 items here are maintenance issues. We're replacing lights that aren't working. So it it's a necessity. It's not that, you know, we're just doing these things because we've got money. It's a necessity to carry them out. Otherwise, people won't be able to see what they're doing. So this is just to report and give you an idea as to, you know, what we're doing, because we're replacing these lights with LED lights. So we're upgrading as we replace and maintain. In terms of the second element, we had, yes, we put out and discussed at committee, although it was in premises at the time, various different contractors actually put in for these works. We asked for a third party to give us an idea as to how it should be installed, because what we found was that each contractor came up with different ways of doing it, because clearly they would have their own suppliers. So what we wanted to do was to ensure that the scope of works were the very least similar, if not exactly the same. So we did that in the first instance. This contractor won, which is why he has been completing phase 1 and will complete phase 2 and 3. So it has had agreement also. In terms of the money that's left over, it becomes earmarked reserves. So we don't use next year's money. This money is there, it is ring fenced, and so will be used. Hopefully that helps.
Thank you, John, for the explanation. Yes, it helps significantly. So are we now saying that this £2,370.75 covers the rest of the work that needs to be done?
No, that probably won't cover all the work that's to be done, but it will make a significant progress. What we did agree was that we, you know, agreed the 5,000 to cover the works up to that point, and then we would be looking at this item once again. So we're going to progress. We're going to see how much is completed, and whatever is needing to be completed, then I'll come back to this committee.
So just to be clear, you mentioned this was all discussed in premises previously. So the order in which it's being done has been agreed by the premises committee. For example, you know, Coombe Court is higher up the ladder, one would assume, than the plant room.
Yes.
Is that agreed? That's been agreed and that's been discussed and agreed, has it, or is it just being left to the office to make up to decide?
I believe. Sorry, go
on. Through you, Chair. Thank you. Yes, all of these papers went past the premises committee. I believe. I'm trying to think who was on the committee at the time. Gary, you might be in a position to just pitch in there. You may recall the papers that went round at the time.
Can't recall them, but it was agreed in different stages.
Yeah.
How we done it.
Thank you. Yes, so we agreed different phases because we were looking at priorities, knowing that it would take some time to complete this particular project because of well, various factors that we don't need to go into now.
Rodney.
Well, I was going to say, I think Trevor Cree was the chairman. I think he might still be in the public gallery. He might better kind of update us. You know, Gary obviously, you know, can't remember the exact details, but Trevor might better to fill us in on this, because it's a bit of it, you know, it's becoming a bit of a muddle sort of situation. But that's up to you, Chair, to ask Trevor. It's only a suggestion.
Thank you, John.
Well, thank you, Chair. I wouldn't class this as a muddle. I would say that from the very beginning, it's been very well handled initially by the premises committee and through our initial grant application. I think it's been done exceptionally well right the way through. I think the paper that was put forward by, I can't recall the name of the contractor, Green something. I think that really helped in our appropriate appointment of a contractor. So I think at all points, you know, we've followed exactly what we should have done and have actually come up with really good provision so far.
I was on the premises committee, and we certainly did have priority towards the end of the contract because we knew that there may not be enough money to do everything. So obviously we're prioritising. The idea was to prioritise the things that need doing first. Tim?
Yep.
Did you have a hand up?
No, I didn't. No.
Oh, sorry, I thought you did. Right. No. Okay. Oh, Paul.
No, I don't want to labour this because we've got other things to discuss. But I'm just not understanding why.
You can't hear you, Paul.
I'm saying I don't want to labour this because we've got other things to do. But if we've got a budget of £5,000, we've actually got the cash sitting in our bank account of £5,000. Why are we doing it so slowly? Why aren't we just getting on and paying out that 2320 to get it finished?
We haven't got 5,000 there, have we? We spent half the 5,000.
Yeah, but why haven't we spent it all? When the months are going past and it's sitting there. Why aren't these lights being done?
Well, it takes a while to get the appropriate lights in place. They have been completed fairly regularly. It's a work in progress. It doesn't get done overnight. There's a lot of work to be done.
No, there's great long periods of months with nothing happening. It's not like, we've got a budget of £5,000. We've got a contractor. Please go ahead and do £5,000 worth of work. And I quite understand you can't do it all in a day, but why can't it be done in 2 or 3 weeks? I just don't understand why there's months and months and months going by and the money's sitting there and the work isn't being done. I don't get it.
Yeah. Right. Okay, thank you very much for that. So can we move on to the finance, please? Sarah?
I was just going to say it would be a lot easier to get it done now while it's not so busy at the Steyning Centre. I've just got another thing I just wanted to quickly ask on the Steyning Centre. It is actually item 8.1, but it says the biannual Legionnaires inspection was carried out on the 2nd and 3rd of December. The report is awaited. I was just thinking, as this is a health and safety issue, why are we waiting 4 months and counting and we still haven't had the report? It's a biannual report. If they're doing it in 2nd and 3rd of December, it seems really strange that we're still waiting for the report 4 months later.
I will chase it up.
Oh.
Yeah, thank you. I will say that as a company, they have obligations to inform us if there are particular health and safety issues. So the fact that we haven't received anything yet rather suggests there aren't particular health and safety issues that we need to work on sooner rather than later. So we will chase them, but they haven't provided us with a report signifying anything that is of sufficient priority.
Thank you, John. Thank you. So can we move on to the finance, please? Report. John, can you highlight any?
I will say we're clearly getting towards the end of the year. I am yet to do the end of month and therefore year reconciliation. We'll do that in the next couple of days, hopefully. With there only being 16 or 17 minutes left, I might suggest that rather than me go down item by item, I just ask if there's any particular questions.
Yeah, John, have you got your sort of best guess, because we've come to the end of the year, have you got a best guess as to what the surplus or otherwise is likely to be, approximately?
Through you, Chair. Yeah, there are a number of accruals that we have to be dealing with. We do know what the warden's invoice is now. We don't know precisely what the swimming pool invoice is, and that's a significant one. We have had through, I think now, all the invoices that we would class as accruals. So there is, you know, a fair bit of final calculation, but I would say we wouldn't be looking at a surplus. We're probably looking at a slight deficit. When I say slight, it could be around the 10,000 mark, but in consideration of where we were and as a percent, then that's actually, you know, still pretty small. However, it's slightly more than I was hoping for, but there's a lot of calculations still to do in terms of accruals. So by FGP next week, hopefully I'll have a much better idea for you.
If you could, that would be good. Thank you.
Thank you, Rodney.
I was going to say, I've done a quick one. It is only quick around figures, but I think the communities committee, there'll be a surplus of about 20 grand.
No.
Well, okay. I can run through how I.
Rodney, sorry to interrupt you, but I would agree if you look at the figures as they stand, but this doesn't take into account outstanding invoices and so on. John can explain it. I can quite see where the 20,000 would disappear.
Okay, can you tell me then, please?
John can, yeah.
Okay, John. No, I mean, I think it's quite important, this, because, you know, we've been talking about water, you know, that there's other things on the agenda further down. You know, I mean, there is quite a bulk of money there, unless you know, John can say. But as I'm looking at these figures, you know, it's around figures of about 20 grand, and that's not even taking into account the allotments. And it's only the communities committee, not the premises, because obviously that is a different baby altogether, and especially, you know, we've been told tonight we've got this extra 10 grand, so my calculations have been thrown out a bit. But maybe, John, you can please explain.
You, Chair. Yeah, what you're looking at there is end of February figures. So there is an extra month to take into account. Like I say, I haven't done end of month reconciliation because the end of month has only just happened at Easter. So, you know, it's going to happen in the next 2 days. So no, I can't give you, I'm afraid, Rodney, a detailed explanation as to where the money goes until I've done the end of month reconciliation.
Okay, well, I mean,
certainly I can give that to you.
Yeah, I mean, I can run down it, and you know, we've only got 1 month left, you know, so that you know, where there's, you know, it would take the tree and hedge cutting. You know, our budget was 5,000, and we've spent 2,475. So basically, there's 2.5 grand round figures there, unless you've got an invoice that you've got for tree cutting, or, you know, anything to do with trees. You know, we've got the grounds maintenance, you know, that's about 5,500. I know we've got iVerde to pay for the, you know, the removal of concrete, you know, because that's got to come out of that. As a matter of interest, John, that's just reminding me, when are they starting the 3rd stage of that, please?
Oh, through your chair.
Yeah, sorry, Deborah, but you know, okay.
Yeah. So 2 or 3 things there. First, there are some certain gaps in between what we have in budget and what we're due to spend. Remember, you know, we're currently undergoing a pandemic, and the idea was that we would make savings in as many areas as possible to deal with the fact that it was some considerable income from the Steyning Centre, not just in terms of room hire, but also other ancillaries like cinema. So that's why there are plus gaps and why we haven't forced certain things through this year as we would in normal years, because we had to make savings to counteract that less income scenario. Second, the concrete was actually under special projects. You may now recall, Rodney. So it wouldn't come out from grounds maintenance, it would come out of the special project budget. So that won't be affected.
That's for next year though, that's in, well, this current year, this new year, rather than the year we've just finished.
Well, it is one of those accruals because we had set aside that amount. So it will be an invoice that is paid subsequently, but will be referring to last year's budget. So it's one of those. And lastly, in terms of the works you asked about, Rodney, you'll probably notice that they have filled and seeded, moved that large lump of concrete. So 2 areas, hopefully if it rains accordingly, will be okay. They'll need to be flattened, but they're well on the way. The 3rd area, they have agreed, I'm not sure that they've set a date, but they did say that they would be there within the next 2 weeks. Yes, it would be the next week.
No, I know the 2 out of 3 have been done. It was it reminded me, you know, that they should almost have been starting that and getting it done. But okay, well, I mean, with the accruals and that, and with the earmark projects, you know, there seems to be a bit of confusion there as far as I'm concerned. But who am I to say?
No, okay. Paul.
Thanks, Chair. Can I just ask about one thing? It's item 4342 on the committee report, page 7. It's the repairs, maintenance and renewals item, where we had a budget of 12,000 and we've only spent 37.5% of that. So we've got quite a bit on the face of it still available to be spent. And I'm just wondering whether that can be used for allotment water supply, for example. Am I being naive about that? Or am I misunderstanding?
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, thanks, Paul. Well, like I say, we were attempting to make savings in a number of areas. So overall, the chances are we won't have money to, you know, effectively earmark for a water project if, you know, we're ending the year in either break even or slight deficit. So it would very much, you know, be looking to next year's funding and whether we look at the reserves or the fact that we didn't detail in terms of special projects. You recall, we haven't detailed precisely what that would be apportioned. And that's where F&GP come into it when we look at the priorities following the working party that we had looking at projects. So no, the fact that we've got money in that one budget line doesn't mean that we can earmark it and take it over into next year, because overall we as I say would either be break even or slightly down.
Okay, thank you.
Rodney, is that your hand up?
Oh yes, please. Yeah. Yes. I did email earlier about the working party. If I could have a look at the, you know, if the briefing notes could be sent to me, please. You know, it's the F&G, because obviously we're talking about different projects here, and I haven't got a clue on what has been discussed or anything. You know, and I'm learning things as the meeting goes along. You know, and I think it's just not very good.
John.
Well, thank you, Chair. It will be a supporting paper, you know, sent to you in advance of F&GP. It was a working party from F&GP, Rodney, so it's relating really to the members of the finance and, well, the F&GP group.
Yeah, what I'm saying, John, if you've done it, right, why can't you send it? You know, because it might have helped tonight. You know, there might have been something in there that I needn't have then queried. You know, and you must have done it by now. And rather than spring it on us 2 days before the meeting, where we don't get proper chance to inwardly digest it, You know, and it just causes, you know, a bit of irritation all the time.
Right, thank you, Rodney.
Okay.
Thank you. So are we all happy to receive the income and expenditure for up to the end of February?
Yep.
Happy to agree? Yeah. So I could propose that, please. Tim second. Those in agreement? Any, those against? Those abstaining?
Okay, 6-4, 1 abstain.
Thank you. Thank you.
Could we, we've only got 6 minutes, could we short circuit?
Councillor Hanson, can I please just make a point here, because we've got 5 minutes left. We're only just halfway through this agenda. Could we please arrange an EOM? Because, you know, there's all these items, there's about over 20 other items that have seemed to have fallen off the edge or been pushed into the long grass that we haven't dealt with. And if we're not going to have another meeting there till June, halfway through the summer, you know, I think that we should really try and arrange an EOM. And in fact, I mean, if I can, I'd like to propose that if I can get a seconder. I think I can do that, John, can't I?
Propose that you'd like to certainly see one, yes.
You know, well, I'd like to propose that we arrange an EOM as soon as possible to carry on with these details, and also all the other items that seem to be gradually dropping off the edge. And, you know, we need to bring them back. Otherwise, we're never, ever going to catch up. So I'd like to propose that we arrange an EOM as soon as possible, please.
Thank you, Gary.
I'll second that.
Oh, okay. Cheers, Gary. Thank you.
So all those in favour? Oh, sorry. Sorry, Paul.
Well, I was really just going to say that, I mean, personally, I'm very reluctant to give more time, but on the other hand, there are some really quite important things that we need to discuss. I mean, like this meeting with the cricket club. You know, it's no good waiting another 2 months to follow that up, I feel. So, I mean, reluctantly, I'd support an EOM because, as others have said, we're just going to get more and more behind otherwise.
Right. So could I have all those in favour, please?
4-4.
Those against? Those abstaining?
1 against, 2 abstain.
So that's carried. So we will arrange an EOM as soon as is possible. Not next week.
Thank you.
Yes.
Sorry, 3.
Yes.
Could we?
Yes.
Possible?
Yes. Yes. Right. I'd like.
And what I'll do, if it helps, John, I'll send him a list of the items that are outstanding.
Yes, that would be a good idea, Rodney, if that was something I was going to say. Thank you. Could we please move to South Ash, which is the title?
10.4.
Oh, 10.4, yes. Please could we move to 10.4, report from the clerk on SPC play areas and their ongoing maintenance, etc. Thank you. John.
Yes, thank you, Chair. Committee, just because it seems.
Aren't here.
No, sorry, John, you're going away again. Yeah, you're all muddled. Sorry.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Committee, yes, I was wondering if we could look specifically so that I could move as swiftly as possible under the item South Ash fence within supporting papers. You see that much discussion, including working out the fact that the solicitor has said that there is an indication that the fence is a party fence, and this would mean that it's repairable at joint expense. Therefore, I was asking if we wouldn't mind agreeing that I can pursue it with the owner now as a joint expense.
Everybody got any comments, or can we agree that we dispute James?
Can't hear,
No,
can't hear.
sorry.
Oh, right, sorry. Is everybody in agreement that we approach again the owners of the house and we negotiate the apportioning of the party fence and go ahead with it? Depute John to negotiate and get the work progressed. Rodney?
Well, I was going to say, is that £350, John?
Correct.
Yeah, you know, so, well, I mean, I'd like to propose that we just go ahead and do it, and then we can talk to the owners afterwards. Otherwise, again, it'll be another thing, 2 months down the line, summer's halfway through, you know, the site is closed, you know, but, you know, it's up to councillors. I mean, that's how I look at it. It's been hanging around long enough, you know. Thank you.
Thank you. Tim?
Chair, I agree with Rodney. Let's just get this done, and then we'll go back and see if we can get the money back from the resident, and we can get this place open. It's been dragging on and on.
Yeah, okay, lovely. Okay, well, so I propose that we go ahead with it as per.
Well, I'd like to propose it.
Oh, sorry,
Yeah,
I'll second it. Sorry, I'll second it. Yeah, that's fine. So all those in favour, please. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. So it's now 10:02.
That's it.
So I'm afraid we've come to the end of the meeting. We'll be in touch with dates for an EOM as soon as we can. And so thank you very much, everybody.
Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Next time. Thank you. Bye-bye.